I used to think silence meant peace. Now? It just means something's wrong. It's that kind of silence that feels alive, like it's crawling across the walls and watching you. The kind that shows up when someone leaves the room, and you realize they've been gone a lot longer than you've been paying attention. Let me ask you something. Have you ever shared a bed with someone who made you feel lonelier than when you slept alone? If that hits a little too close, don't keep it to yourself. Comment below, and if you've ever had to start over when you didn't plan to, like, share, and subscribe. You're not alone. I'm Eliana Wall. And this is the story of how my marriage died, in total silence. Isaac Golden, he was everything once. Charming, warm, magnetic. The kind of man who could walk into a room and make everyone look his way without trying. And back then, I felt lucky to be the one he chose. We've been married 12 years. No kids. No wild dramas. Just routines. We pay our bills on time. We host neighborhood brunch once a month. Our lawn is trimmed, our calendar color-coded, our wine glasses matching. From the outside? Picture perfect. But inside? Inside it feels like a waiting room with no end. Just me, waiting for a smile, a touch, a real conversation. Just reminders and grocery lists. Did you pick up the dry cleaning? Don't forget your mother's birthday. No, how are you, really? Not anymore. Isaac's always working late. He says it's business meetings, client dinners, the hustle. He missed our anniversary last year, forgot, actually. Texted me at midnight like it was any other Tuesday. I lied and told him I'd fallen asleep early. The truth? I'd made his favorite dinner. Wore the red dress he used to love. Sat by candlelight. Alone. But I told myself, it's just a phase. He's tired. He's stressed. He still loves me, just doesn't say it like he used to. And then, something changed. Out of nowhere, Isaac started bringing me flowers again. Making reservations. Complimenting my cooking like he remembered I used to care. One night, he came home with tickets to a jazz show, the same club where we had our second date. He smiled like he was proud of himself. Like he'd remembered something important. And part of me, God help me, wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe we were finding our way back. But something felt off. The timing was too perfect. The attention was too sudden. Like he was reading from a script. Like he knew I was one breath away from asking the question no wife ever wants to voice out loud. Who are you when I'm not looking? Isaac left the house in a rush that morning. Suit half-zipped, tie crooked, voice clipped. Said there was a client emergency downtown, some fire that couldn't wait. He kissed my cheek out of habit. Didn't look me in the eye. The door slammed before I could even ask if he'd be home for dinner. I went into the kitchen, more out of routine than anything. And there it was. His laptop. Still open. Still glowing. Still logged in. I stared at it for a while. I wasn't looking for anything. Truly. I wasn't that wife, the one who snoops, the one who breaks trust just to prove what her gut already knows. But this wasn't about curiosity. This was about silence. That thick, invisible silence that had been sitting between us for months. And at that moment, I just wanted to know if I was imagining it. So I looked. Just a glance. A quick flick of the mouse. Just to clear the screensaver. But what popped up made my stomach knot. His inbox. Open. Dozens of folders. Most of them are normal, invoices, projects, travel receipts. But one stood out. Tucked at the bottom like it was trying not to be seen. 4G. My heart started thumping in that quiet, panicked rhythm that only comes when you know you've already found something you weren't meant to. I clicked it. There weren't any sent emails. Just drafts. 9 of them. All addressed to someone named Juliana. Juliana Lane. The name triggered a soft jolt in my brain. I'd heard it before. She worked with Isaac, something in branding, I think. We met once at a holiday party. She had a strong handshake and even stronger perfume. But these messages, they weren't professional. They were love letters. Romantic. Detailed. Intimate. Your skin still lingers on my fingertips. Counting the days until Tulum. I still hear you laugh when I close my eyes. I watch her cook dinner, and all I see is the absence of you. I couldn't breathe. There was one draft that hit harder than the rest. He called her G. Said their weekend in Tulum felt like what home was supposed to be. Tulum. That was the corporate retreat he told me about. The one I helped him pack for. The one he said I couldn't come to because spouses weren't allowed. I remember how he'd kissed me goodbye in the driveway, told me not to wait up. Said he'd bring me back something pretty. He brought home a scarf. I used to wear it. I think I even thanked him. I closed the laptop like it had just slapped me. Pushed it away with the tips of my fingers like it might bite me again if I wasn't careful. And then, I stood there. In the middle of the kitchen. In that same lemon-scented air I always clean with when I'm trying to distract myself. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just stared at nothing and whispered. How long? How long had he been writing her letters while sitting on the same couch with me? How long had I been sleeping next to someone who was emotionally in love with someone else? And worse, how long had I been ignoring every sign, because I wanted to believe he'd come back to me? My knees buckled a little. Not from drama. From heartbreak. From realizing that the person I trusted with every piece of me was speaking to someone else like I used to dream he'd speak to me again. I didn't yell. Didn't scream. Didn't throw the laptop. I just backed away from it like it had teeth. Sat down at the dining table. Stared at my reflection in the window. And for the first time, I truly saw it. I wasn't living with my husband anymore. I was living with a ghost who only showed up when he needed clean socks and a smile that didn't ask too many questions. You'd think the worst part would be the first blow. The gut punch of finding out. But no. The worst part is what happens after. When you can't stop looking. That night, after the laptop, I barely slept. I laid in bed beside Isaac, his back to me, like it always was, and I stared at the ceiling wondering if I was losing my mind or just finally waking up. By morning, the need to know had taken over. It wasn't snooping. Not really. It was survival. It was the quiet scream of my instincts refusing to be ignored any longer. So I checked everything. The travel receipts. His calendar. The credit card statements I used to organize for tax season. And there it was. Dinner for two at a vineyard in Napa, charged on the same weekend he told me he was at a leadership retreat in Chicago. I remember that weekend. He said the Wi-Fi was spotty. He called once. Maybe twice. Told me he missed me, said the team was exhausted. I brought him home-cooked lasagna when he got back. He said it was the best thing he'd had in days. He was probably still full from the wine and charcuterie board she fed him. But I didn't stop there. His phone was next. He never locked it. He never needed to. Or maybe he thought I'd never look. Photos. Tucked away in a hidden album labeled receipts. Smart, right? Safe enough for someone who assumed his wife still trusted him completely. But those weren't receipts. They were snapshots of them. Isaac and Juliana. Laughing. At that vineyard. Her head tilted into his shoulder. His hand on her waist like it lived there. Her lipstick on his collar, not by accident. Their smiles wide. Free. Like they were proud of being found out. My heart didn't break at that moment, it caved in. Not from the betrayal. From the joy on his face. I hadn't seen him smile like that in years. Not with me. I put the phone down gently. Like it was a baby I didn't want to wake. I stood there in the kitchen, watching the toaster glow, thinking. This is what it feels like when your life keeps moving, but you don't. But I didn't confront him. Not yet. I rehearsed it in my head 100 times. Every line. Every scream. Every teary-eyed "how could you?" But I stayed quiet. Instead, I watched. Closely. Every lie got louder after that. The way he smiled too fast when I asked how his day was. The way his phone suddenly stayed face down. The way he'd shower right when he got home, like he was rinsing off a version of himself I wasn't supposed to see. It was like living with a magician. All sleight of hand and false charm. And I was finally learning the trick. That week, I went for a walk. Not to clear my head. To get away from the house before it swallowed me whole. And that's when I saw him. Matthias Monroe. We hadn't spoken in years, not since college. But he lived a few streets down now, moved in with his sister after his divorce. He spotted me before I could turn around. "Ellie?" His voice was warm. Familiar. Like a porch light flickering on after a long blackout. We hugged. It felt strange and needed at the same time. He looked at me for a second too long, then said, "You okay?" I opened my mouth to lie, but nothing came out. Instead, I gave the kind of smile people give when they've been holding it together too long. He didn't press. We walked for a bit. Talked about everything except what mattered. The weather. How fast time was moving. His dog refused to walk on wet grass. Then he stopped. Looked at me sideways and said, "You've always been on fire pretending to be fog." I blinked. What? You used to light up every room, Ellie. Now you move like you're afraid of being seen. Whatever's happening, I hope you remember who you are before you start shrinking to fit it. That stuck. It still sticks. Because it was the first time in years someone looked at me instead of through me. And I didn't realize how much I'd missed that. I went home that night with his words echoing in my chest. Fire pretending to be fog. Maybe it was time to burn something down. I wish I could tell you that I confronted him like they do in the movies. Tears in my eyes. Voice trembling but steady. A dramatic showdown in the kitchen with wine glasses and broken plates. But no. Real life rarely gives you those kinds of scenes. Real life is quieter. Meaner. It creeps in like a draft through a cracked window, slow and cold. I didn't scream. I waited. Watched. I started collecting pieces the way people gather evidence in a case they already know the verdict to. His shirt smelled like women's perfume 3 days in a row. He told me he was at the gym, but his workout clothes were still folded in the drawer. He said his phone died, but I saw the charger missing from his car. Each lie was a whisper. Each silence was a scream. And still, I kept pretending I was asleep when he crawled into bed past midnight. Because the moment you confront the truth, it becomes real. And I wasn't ready. Not yet. Instead, I turned to someone who wouldn't lie to me. Carly Wagner. My best friend since college. The kind of woman who could spot a lie a mile away and had no problem setting it on fire. She came over for coffee on a Sunday. I told her everything. The emails. The photos. The vineyard. Juliana. All of it. Carly didn't even blink. "That cheating bastard," she said, pacing my living room like it personally offended her furniture. "You should burn his clothes. Change the locks. Hell, sue him." But I just sat there. Clutching my mug like it was the only thing holding me together. "I don't want revenge," I said quietly. Carly looked at me. Really looked. "Then what do you want?" I opened my mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. "I just want to feel like I exist in my own marriage." She sat next to me. You do exist, Ellie. He's just chosen not to see you anymore. That night, I tried something different. I made his favorite dinner. Slow-roasted lamb, mashed sweet potatoes, fresh rosemary from the garden. I wore the navy blue slip dress he once said made me look like a dream. I lit candles. Played that jazz vinyl he bought me the first year we were married. I set the table for two. And waited. He came home 2 hours late. No apology. Just a rushed traffic was insane. He sat down, complimented the food in passing, scrolled through his phone between bites. Didn't notice the candles. Didn't notice me. But I noticed something. When his phone lit up on the table, I caught a glimpse of the name. G. She hadn't even earned a full name in his phone. Just G. Short. Intimate. Lazy. Like she didn't need more than a letter to take up space in his life. I stared at the screen. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't look away. He picked up his phone quickly, too quickly. Tried to act casual. Said he had to take a call upstairs. Work-related. I didn't say a word. Just nodded. But inside? Everything was splintering. After he disappeared, I cleared the table in silence. Threw the food in the trash. Not out of rage. Out of grief. Grief for the version of myself that kept waiting for a man who'd already left. He just forgot to take his toothbrush. Later that night, I stood at the bathroom mirror. Wiped off my lipstick slowly. And asked the question no one ever wants to say out loud. Is this love, or is this just habit? That was the moment something broke. Not in a loud, violent way. But in that quiet, final way that only comes after months, years, of being chipped down to your last thread of hope. I went to bed and faced the other direction. And for the first time I didn't care if he noticed. He came home late again. Didn't even bother with an excuse this time. Dropped his keys in the bowl by the door. Loosened his tie like it was the only weight he felt that day. I stood in the doorway, arms folded, heart still. He glanced up, froze for a second. Maybe he saw something different in my eyes. Maybe he didn't see me at all. I need to ask you something, I said. My voice wasn't angry. It was calm. That dangerous kind of calm, the one you only find when you've already cried all the tears, played out every possible ending. Isaac shifted. Okay. Are you in love with her? He blinked. Didn't respond right away. Which, of course, was its own kind of answer. Finally, he said, "It's complicated, Ellie." "It's not," I said. "Not anymore." He sighed, rubbed the back of his neck. It didn't mean anything. I almost laughed right then. But it came out more like a breath that hurt on the way up. "You don't write poetry for things that mean nothing," I said softly. "I still hear you laugh when I close my eyes. Home is wherever your skin touches mine." That's not a fling. That's a confession. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Because what could he say? So he did what cowards do. He stepped back. I think I need time to figure things out. And there it was. The final script line in the play I never agreed to star in. I nodded, too tired to fight. Take all the time you want. But I knew. He wasn't coming back for me. Maybe he never had. He packed a small bag that night. Didn't ask me to stop him. Didn't hug me goodbye. And when the door clicked shut, I didn't cry. Not right away. The next morning, someone knocked on the door. Enzo Andrews. A mutual friend. More Isaac's buddy than mine, but kind. Familiar. He was holding a box. Isaac had left it at his place after some guy's weekend. Figured he'd want it, Enzo said. Then paused. His eyes scanned my face. He knew something was off. You okay? I gave the kind of smile that makes strangers uncomfortable. He didn't push. As he handed me the box, he muttered casually, "Man's been jet-setting all year, him and that woman, what's her name? Juliana? Gwill." He stopped. My hands froze around the box. "I didn't know it was supposed to be a secret," he said quickly, nervous now. "They always called it business stuff." I shook my head. "It's okay. It's not your fault." But inside? Something snapped. Not in a fiery, dramatic way. No wine glasses flying, no yelling into the void. Just quiet. A kind I hadn't felt in years. After Enzo left, I put the box on the table and walked straight to the bathroom. Turned the shower on. Sat on the floor under the water, fully clothed. And finally let myself break. I cried so hard it felt like I might vanish. I screamed into a towel so the neighbors wouldn't hear. I pressed my palms to the tile and felt the cold bite into my skin. And then I stopped. The tears dried up. The shaking faded. And in its place came stillness. Not the silence I'd lived in with Isaac. Not the hollow, echoing kind that felt like punishment. This was different. This was mine. It was the quiet of letting go. The quiet that settles in when the pretending ends. The quiet of a woman who has nothing left to hide, nothing left to chase. I stepped out of the shower. Looked at myself in the mirror. Hair soaked. Eyes red. Skin blotchy. But for the first time in years, I saw someone real. I wrapped myself in a towel. Made tea. Sat on the couch alone, no phone, no distractions. And let the quiet stay. Because finally, I wasn't scared of it. It's been 4 months. 4 months since Isaac walked out with a duffel bag and a story he thought I'd believe. 4 months since I stopped waiting for someone to come home who hadn't been home in years. I moved. New apartment near the city. Smaller. Quieter. No more formal dining room or guest suite we never used. Just light through big windows and a view of the street that feels alive. There's a coffee shop downstairs where they know my name now. I signed up for photography classes at the community center. I volunteer at an animal shelter on Tuesdays, walk dogs that don't care what I've lost, only that I showed up. The walls in my place are bare for now. But I like it that way. I'm not rushing to fill the space. I used to be afraid of empty rooms. Now I see them for what they really are, possibility. One Saturday morning, I was walking through the park with a coffee and my camera when I heard someone call my name. Matthias. He was jogging, earbuds in, hoodie half-zipped, that same easy smile he's always had. We hadn't spoken since that walk. Not because I didn't want to. I just needed time to hear my own voice again before I let anyone else speak into my life. We chatted. Laughed a little. The deepest kind of cheating isn't physical, it's emotional. It's when someone looks at your emptiness and feeds off it instead of filling it. I sat with those words for a while. Let them sink in. Not with pain. Not anymore. With peace. The kind that isn't loud or shiny. The kind that doesn't beg to be seen, but refuses to be ignored. Before bed, I walked barefoot out onto the balcony. The city was humming beneath me. Not chaos. No noise. Just life. I breathed it in. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel like someone left behind. I felt like someone who finally remembered her own name. Have you ever uncovered something that changed everything? Something you couldn't unsee? Something that made you stop waiting and start rebuilding? Drop your truth in the comments. And if you're learning to trust yourself again, like, share, and subscribe. You are not alone. Not now. Not ever.